So big trade today in the WNBA, the first of what should be many over the next couple of days. We'll see if the Mystics are more active. I think a lot of the insiders think that they will be. There's a little disagreement in reading a bunch of this. It's funny, like reading all the stories today, Anthony, from The Athletic and ESPN and W Insider and like all these different places all seem to have slightly different information. Any range of Aaliyah Edwards, Stephanie Dolson, Emily Anxler all could move over the next couple of days. I also saw reported for the first time. I need to double check on this. Aaliyah, like in the Athletic story, they said Aaliyah Edwards requested a trade in early July. Now, there was the reporting from Kendra Andrews, who we had on the show, and we might have Kendra or Alexa Philippou from ESPN tomorrow. ESPN is efforting to see if it can work with their schedules. But, hey, would you like an insider around their trade deadline? Hard to schedule. So we're working on that. But Kendra and Alexa reported that the Mystics had potentially put out feelers, but I don't ever remember seeing there was a trade request. So I'm not sure if that just got mixed up in the Athletics reporting. But long story short, like there's definitely a chance between now and Thursday, which is the deadline, that there are more moves for Washington. But today they made one that I don't think a lot of folks saw coming. The Mystics trade All-Star Brittney Sykes, who just made her first All-Star team and has been awesome. And by the way, a friend of the show, very sad on that route to see Slim go. Always enjoyed talking to her. She was great here, and that should not be lost in this. But they trade her to Seattle in exchange for, really, if we're being honest, the big coup here is getting a first-round pick. The fact that they get one of the absolute best humans and leaders in the NBA is a hell of a salary match piece that you get to go. Seattle, actually, Anthony, I've never seen this before. Guess how much salary cap room Seattle had to wiggle with when making this deal?
$5 million.
No, that's way more than the W salary cap is.
Okay.
So we're talking
$100,000.
So $100,000 would be like a slim number to be working with, right? They had $223. That was in Kevin Pelton's reporting.
$223?
I think her Hoops is the go-to site on that. Yes, the Seattle Storm had $223 to play with. So they had to basically match dollar for dollar salary-wise, which is why the Storm sent not only Alysha Clark, three-time WNBA champion, former Mystic, two-time champion with the Storm, who re-signed there this offseason, and things have not gone well there for a bunch of reasons that don't really matter anymore. But it hasn't gone great this season for AC, who, again, full transparency, is like a dear, dear personal friend, someone that I've known for over a decade since we were at Middle Tennessee State together in college. But, like, they had to include Zaya Cook in the deal to make the salaries work, because otherwise taking on a little bit of extra salary, taking on a slightly lower salary, slim salary, slightly less than Alysha's, they couldn't do that because they literally had $223 in cap space. So for the Mystics, the coup is getting the first round pick. There are 15 selections in the 2026 WNBA draft's first round. The Mystics own 3 of them. 3. Now, the Storm owned 3 before this trade. And unfortunately, the 2 that they will keep will be the better 2 picks, most likely. They own who is it? They own Las Vegas's pick. That one we'll see. They also own Los Angeles's pick. That one could be a really good pick. So they will keep those 2 picks. But that allowed them to say, like, we'll give up ours. And the reason they're going after Slim, who, if we're being totally honest, all personal biases aside, of course, at this point in their respective careers, Brittney Sykes is a better player than Alysha. Like, Alysha was the best defender in the league for a long stretch, somehow never won Defensive Player of the Year, but was first-team all-defense multiple years in a row. That is not quite the level she's at now, although I still think she's got it in her. She shot 37% from 3 last year. But no one's going to be like, oh, she deserved to be an all-star. Slim just made an all-star team a week ago, 2 weeks ago. She's incredible and is having the best offensive season of her career, and is just, I think, really figured out how to be like a starring player on that end. Obviously, her defensive prowess is still one of the best in the league, one of the few players over the last decade that I put up on Alysha's level in their primes, and she's still at that level. So Long story short, Seattle wants another player to come and join Skylar Diggins, Nneka Ogwumike. They get that in Slim. The Mystics get a first-round pick, and they instantly replace Slim's leadership with a 3-time champion who can help mentor. I mean, we've heard how much, say, Sonia Citron has learned from Brittney Sykes, how much she looked up to Slim. Sydney Johnson's talked about the leadership. We've talked to Slim about the leadership. And there just aren't a bunch of players running around planet Earth that you can bring in that if you're going to trade one of your leaders, that nobody in the locker room is going to go, like, sure, there's sadness today. And I was just scrolling through Instagram in the break, and Kareem Copeland from the Post actually had, like, video of Slim at shoot-around today. So that's how fast this happened, was Slim is at shoot-around, like, celebrating with Sonia Citron after Sony hit the half-court shot to end practice. And then within an hour, 2 hours, she's traded. So they'll miss her on a human level, but when it's like, oh, we're getting Alysha, then instantly you're like, sick. Like, we've got leadership. And I think it also, frankly, while it would be hard because Alysha hasn't spent the year with Sydney Johnson, if they want to trade Stephanie Dolson as well, and I can talk about why the Mystics might want to do this in a second, and why they're making these moves in a larger context beyond just the first-round pick in a second. But if they want to trade Stephanie Dolson, knowing you have that level of leader, truly one of the absolute best in the sport and one of the best in the league with as much experience as anyone in the league, Alysha, if you're listening, turn this part off, the oldest player in the league, you know that you can make those kinds of moves and not have a void in a vacuum. Although, here in the back half of the season, like, let's see what some of these young players can do from a leadership side. The other big thing, Anthony, I think that's important to point out is the Mystics have been flirting with the final playoff spot all year. And I think it's very easy as a fan to forget, because of how exciting this team has been, because of how much they've outperformed expectations, that they've wildly outperformed expectations. We now watch these games expecting them to compete and to win against anybody. Like, they can compete with the Minnesotas and the New Yorks. And while those teams will absolutely win more often in the end, and if you play those, a series, 5-game series, or like your theoretical, these teams play 10 times. How many does each side win? Of course, New York and Minnesota would win probably 7 or 8, but you'd expect them all to be relatively close games. And because of that, it's easy to forget how early this is, that this is technically year one of a rebuild. That in the post-Tebow era, they've torn this thing down. They had 3 first-round picks last year. They hit absolute grand slams on the first 2 with Sony and with Kiki, and we don't know what they hit with Georgia because she had the injury on the second day of training camp. So what's more valuable to them? Making the playoffs as an 8th seed this year, or missing and winding up back in the lottery? This is where I now remind you 2 fun facts about the WNBA lottery that most likely you forgot. Ready for these, Anthony? You ready for your 2 fun facts?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Number 1, the WNBA's lottery odds go on a 2-year rolling system. So instead of simply who had the worst record this year, it is who had the worst record over the past 2 seasons. Take that, give the respective lottery odds, then do the ping pong balls, and they do it for the first 2 picks. And now with the amount of teams there are in the league, 13 this year, 2 more expansion coming, there are 5 teams that will be in the lottery. Last year it was 4. So while Connecticut is by miles the worst team in the league this year, they won 14 more games than Washington last year when they were good. Alyssa Thomas was still there, on down the list. So based off the teams that are kind of floating around right now, the Mystics could finish as high as 3rd, even if they just missed the playoffs by a couple of games. They could finish as high as 3rd in the lottery odds in a pretty loaded draft. So that would be cool. That's worth it. And here's the other side. Here's fun fact number 2. If the Mystics were to make the playoffs, like, the experience would be great. There's no doubt that for the long-term development, there is some upside of that. And winning is good. Like, nobody should ever poo-poo winning. But because there are 2 expansion teams, let's say you do what happens. You're the last team in the playoffs. You face Minnesota in the first round, and you get swept. Okay, cool. Great experience that was. There's now 2 expansion teams ahead of you in the draft. So you drop from being potentially the 5th pick by missing the playoffs and not having any lottery luck to the 8th pick. not to the 6th pick. You missed the lottery by 1 in the NBA, you're just the next team. In a normal non-expansion year, you're the next team. But the way the W has done this in the past, including last year with Golden State, and with Toronto and Portland entering this season, now this could change with the CBA, which is up famously, but the Mystics, instead of being 5th, you have Portland and Toronto 6th and 7th, and then the Mystics would be 8th. So there is actually, for long-term planning, and let's call it an elevated benefit of missing the playoffs. If they make it, okay. That means their young players played tremendously well. You're only going to get so mad about that. But if you go, why would you trade an all-star and consider trading another, contributing to winning player in Stephanie Dolson over the next couple of days? Why would you trade your all-star and Slim today when you're fighting for a playoff spot? That's why.
Hey, this is DA, and you're listening to The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.